I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Thursday, March 7th. The family of two slain Métis hunters were in an Edmonton court Wednesday to hear the appeal of a man convicted in their deaths. Back in 2022, Anthony Bilodeau was found guilty of the second-degree murder of Jacob Sansom and Maurice Cardinal. Also convicted, Anthony's father, Roger Bilodeau, in his case of manslaughter. The 2020 shooting deaths took place following a high-speed chase on the roads of rural Alberta. And as arguments are reviewed by the appeal court, lawyers for the Bilodeaus say a phone conversation between the two just before the altercation would not be fully allowed as evidence. The elder Bilodeau appealed his conviction last September. A decision has yet to be announced. Sarah Sansom is Jacob Sansom's widow.
We've been waiting for 6 months today for Roger's appeal hearing, and we're still sitting here waiting, and now we're going to have to wait God knows how long for this appeal hearing, hopefully not near as long. But people are like, isn't it over yet? Aren't you glad it's over? What do you mean? It's not over for us. It's never over for us.
AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this week. According to the Assembly, they discussed First Nations rights, priorities, and needed investments leading into next month's federal budget. At a photo op, Woodhouse-Nepenak thanked Trudeau for last fall's $43 billion First Nations child welfare settlement.
You have been kind to First Nations. I know that we have a lot of gaps to still close to 2030. We have commitments to 2030, and I'm here to try and work with you to close some of those gaps. And I know that First Nations from coast to coast to coast depend on us having a good relationship and to try and work out some of our issues every single day.
To Saskatoon, where it's day 2 of Métis Nation Saskatchewan's conference on systemic barriers to housing. An opportunity for attendees to add their voice to a comprehensive overview of housing insecurity. Rachel May has more.
To be able to see the disconnect from governments with Indigenous people, Métis people, and First Nation, it hurts to see that.
Before he was president of Métis Nation Saskatchewan, Glenn McCallum had first-hand experience with homelessness.
I was homeless at one time, and to be able to make it is to be able to have confidence and believe that it could be different.
McCallum explained growing up with parents who almost lost their lives to residential schools and being a residential day school survivor himself. Seeing a room full of people dedicated to helping those who fall through the cracks is rewarding.
When you start seeing people respond positively, like the federal and provincial governments, industry, institutions, it's a great place to be.
Métis Nation Saskatchewan's Director of Social Infrastructure, Jason McCurdy, said a top priority is securing funding for projects.
There's a very small amount of pool in this province, whether it's from the feds or the province, to address these issues.
McCurdy said that the conference is focusing on getting a variety of voices to ensure all systemic barriers are addressed when it comes to housing insecurity. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A Nunavut MLA has been suspended. Jolie Kainurk, the member for Amatuk, was sanctioned by the Legislative Assembly this week for alleged intoxication on the job. It's Kainurk's second such suspension, the first coming in June 2022. Earlier this year, he resigned his cabinet portfolio of culture and heritage, as well as minister responsible for Kulik Energy Corporation. Iqaluit Sinai MLA Janet Brewster led the motion for a suspension.
In this House, we are expected to be able to conduct ourselves in a manner that provides excellent governance for Nunavut. And when someone is intoxicated, they cannot. And Mr. Leonik has admitted in the past that he has problems with addictions. Many of us have offered support. And I ask that his community wrap around him in compassion, knowing that so many people, so many Nunavut suffer the same issues and problems.
In climate news, the authors of a new study from the University of Colorado say the Arctic Ocean could be without ice in the next few years. The study suggests the ocean could experience those first ice-free days before 2030, with no ice for the entirety of September coming as early as 2035. Such a scenario would likely have a significant ecological impact. Warmer ocean temperatures have already decimated snow crab populations. Sticking with the environment, Alberta's energy regulator took in a meeting in Fort Chipewyan this week. On Tuesday, the regulator took questions about Imperial Oil's Curl mine site, where a tailings pond spill began in May 2022. However, nearby northern Alberta Indigenous communities were not told of the spill until 9 months later. APTN's Danielle Paradis was at the meeting, a scene she described as tense.
So from May 2022 to November 2023, there's actually 3 incidents that resulted in over 5.3 million liters of tailings pond leaks, and also other contaminated water spilling into the nearby watershed. So overall, there was a real lack of trust. There were quite a few people who were really frustrated, both in the delay in the visit. So the spills, the notifications about the spills, and even APTN story was about a year ago. And there had been visits from Imperial Oil. There had not yet been visits from the Alberta Energy Regulator. So people were feeling frustrated about that. And then as the meeting went on, a lot of questions that people had, they felt were not being answered. One of the questions was what is being done to remediate the area where there were tailings pond spills. Towards the end of the meeting, Chief Alan Adam came up and he handed a lawsuit to Lori Pusher, suing them for the tailings pond leak and the failure to notify.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Thursday, March 7th. I'm Rick Harp.